evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to Monday evening's edition of Plain Talk. This week is going to be a busy week. In fact, we have so many shows lined up that we've pretty much booked out next week. But this week starts with a man who everybody's been waiting to hear from. He's a gentleman and a scholar and a giant among men. He is well revered in his circles and in the profession, Mr. Vernon De Lima. Good evening, sir. Pleasure to have you.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me, Phillip. Right, and I hope that we will be able to share some thoughts this evening about the state of the judicial system in Trinidad and Tobago.
And let's just jump right in there. Vernon, I want to ask you one question early o'clock. Does the Parliament regulate or legislate the operation of the justice system under our Constitution?
To some extent it does, because the Parliament passes the laws and makes laws for the country. In that respect, it does have an impact on what happens there. That is not to say that they ought to interfere. Once the law is made, they step aside, and then the judiciary and the judicial system takes over. And from there you have the independence. That is, the independence of the judiciary comes into effect. Now, for years, people have been complaining about the judicial system, the criminal judicial system in Trinidad and Tobago, because it really and truly is quite archaic. You know, I remember, when I came up as a young lawyer from England in 1965, and from that time, I remember the laws then to nowadays. The laws haven't changed very much at all. The society has changed. I mean, and things have got very bad in a number of ways in Trinidad, as indeed I suppose they've got very bad in other parts of the world. But we're talking about Trinidad and Tobago, and the society has changed. The criminal people and the people who do crime have become bolder and more brazen, and so on. They take it for granted that they're in charge of the system. And over the years, we have allowed it. The law-abiding people, and the lawyers and the judges, and so have allowed this to take place. It's very sad. It is true, and I don't know. I was at the bar for 52 years, and I'm retired now. I've been retired for the last 5 years or 4 years. And I don't think I will ever go back into a courthouse in my life. I'm nearly 80. I'm going to be 80 years old. But I find it very, very sad to see what has happened to Trinidad, because I remember the days when the judicial system was really the thing that people could look up to, people had respect for. You knew that if somebody came into your home and robbed you or did something bad to you, in no time at all, they would be dealt with. The police would catch them, and they would go to court, and they'd be dealt with, and dealt with in reasonable time. And when I say reasonable time, I mean reasonable time. Let me tell you something. In those days, a murder case from the date of incident to the date of execution of the man would be no more than a year and a half, Would you believe that? A year and a half. Today.
Okay, so I have to jump in there.
Yeah, sure.
Because an attorney that I respect told me that if Gary Griffith is successful as a police commissioner, because of backlog and the serious backlog in our country, that if Gary is successful in arresting and charging people who are wanted in cases of murder, that we
Mm.
can have people sit waiting on trial for 30, 40, 50 years.
Yes, he's right. Whoever told you that is correct. And you know, I tell you, I saw how that developed. Or let me put it this way: the whole system over a period of a time of 12, between 10 and 15 years, right? It's I was telling you when I came out to Trinidad, the first case I ever did was a man charged for rape. I mean, I tell you, and we lost the case. We lost the case, right? So the judge gave him 3 years in jail, right? And man appealed. He appealed. The appeal took 4 months to come up. 4 months, right? And the matter was finished and what have you, and so on and so on. But look at that, 4 months, right? One of the first murder cases that I did was a case of Hector Bentic, right? A very, very famous case in Trinidad. He was known as the Gasparillo Strangler. That case, from the date he was sentenced to death to the date he came out of prison, but he eventually got out. He won his appeal, and he had 3 appeals before he won the final one, and he was only in jail for 3 years. For 3 years. So look at that. Today, if a man is charged for murder, big Christ, it take 10, 15 years for him to come before the judge. No, it's not fair to the man either. Not fair to him, because he's innocent until proven guilty. That he's entitled to that presumption, you know. But people just seem like they don't care. They don't care. When a man goes into prison in Trinidad, like they don't care. He stays there.
Is what is going on in our courts and by extension what it is causing in our jails, especially what's going on in remand yard, where people are spending more time in jail than they could spend if they are convicted of the crime and given the maximum. Would you consider this a human rights violation, an atrocity?
Of course it is. Of course it is. How can that ever be right? The man, the man goes to jail for whatever it is, let's say 3 years. The judge sends him to jail for 3 years, and he remains in the remand yard for 5. How can that ever be right? And I mean, and even if he wins the appeal or whatever the judges up there decide to do, and they say, all right, but you can go home now, they don't give him any compensation for the 2 years or that he spent inside of there. You know, so I mean, the whole system is rotten. It's rotten to the core. And then you have you talk about the length of the trials, right? We onto that because they go hand in hand with what are we talking about. As I told you, the time that it took. Maybe one of the things, I was thinking the other day, and I was reading something about it. Maybe a good idea, the business of the trial judge. I see they have that in Trinidad now. We have a new law where a judge can try an indictable matter with the consent of the accused, right? That is an extremely important thing. And a lot of people might feel, well, look, that is not fair because the judge might be biased, and so I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think that number one, it's a question of time. That could cut the time. If a man is charged for a serious offense and he goes before a single judge, and the judge says, "I will try your case," right? And the man submits himself to trial by that judge, he'll probably and he's innocent, right? He'll be found innocent. He will be found innocent, right? These judges are not stupid, right? They have experience and what have you and so on. And as I was telling somebody before I spoke with you, I have seen cases in Trinidad where juries make terrible errors, and all you have to do is make the mistake of picking the wrong one man in the jury who is an ignorant man, right? And crap will smoke your pipe here. I remember we did a murder. Go ahead.
No, I'll jump in.
We did a murder trial in Border Spain. And the man was innocent, right? Innocent. I mean, a decent guy, right? And the jury were hung 11-1. So even the judge was shocked. All of us, right? And 2 days later, the poor fella had to go back and be retried in 6 months. He remained 6 months in the jail. And 2 days later, one of the jurors met a friend of mine and told him, he says, you know what happened? We had a man sitting there who was working at Colonial Life, right? And the man, from the time he selected the man to sit in the jury, he announced to us, look, I come here to convict him, right? I don't tell me nothing about that was crime in this country, right? Whatever it is, he is guilty, right? And so he didn't even want to hear. And you see, in a case, that's a hell of a thing. In a case of murder, you have to have a unanimous verdict, one way or the other. So the poor fellow had to remain there. The judge was shocked. Everybody was shocked. So that is one of the cases I could tell you about. There's another one that took place in San Juan. Go on. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you because the first question I asked, and I just need to know, because everything that you're saying and everything that you're going to say is going to beg that somebody fixes this. And I wanted to find out, in a car, you have to know where the engine is before you start to fix the engine. So I'm trying to get us to the engine. Where's the bonnet? I'm trying to understand. Chapter 7 of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago starts, page 99. Part 1, Chapter 7, the Judicature. Part 1, the Supreme Court, 99. There shall be a Supreme Court Judicature of Trinidad and Tobago consisting of a High Court of Justice, hereinafter referred to as the High Court, and a Court of Appeal with such jurisdiction and powers as are conferred on those courts respectively by this Constitution or any other law. Now, this is where in our Constitution, which is the operations manual for Trinidad and Tobago, for want of a better term, this is where we arrive at courts. There shall be a Supreme Court, right? So for the Constitution to speak courts into existence, it doesn't acknowledge that courts exist. It is speaking courts into existence. Then that leads me to believe that the Constitution that could be amended by or reformed by a majority in the Parliament, that the Parliament has the authority to fix what ails us with our justice system. Yes or no?
Yes. Yes, I agree.
One more question, right?
Go ahead.
I'll ask you one more question to guide where we're going with this conversation, because the public looking on, and Vernon, if I let you talk for 10 days, the people will sit there enraptured with your stories, because I tell you, when you tell me stories, I just said, but we need, you and I, we need to get something out of this first interview here, where the public could at least believe that it is not hopelessly broken, that if we put people in the Parliament who has an intention to fix all of Trinidad and Tobago, including the failings of the justice system, that if there was the political will to do it, it could be done.
Yes, I understand. I agree with you.
You understand?
Yeah, yes? Undoubtedly, that is true. Yeah.
A High Court judge, appeal court judge, suggested to me 10 years ago, more, that one of the things we do not have in our justice system is any case management that puts timers on matters. So that, and I remember a couple of years ago, and I just putting this out there to you, a man who was charged, and this came to a conclusion 1 or 2 years ago, a man who was charged with breaking into Stevens and Johnson's 25 years ago, his matter, right, and his matter just came to a conclusion. That is ridiculous. I am asking you, can the Parliament legislate, pass law, amend constitutionally that there be a timer on matters, 5 years, I just throw numbers at you, 5 years for criminal matters, 3 years for civil matters, the responsibility of managing that clock being the responsibility of the judge?
Yeah, I heard you with that before, you know. I listen to you from time to time, and I heard you with that. And this guy's a good idea. I don't like your timing. I don't mind telling you. I find 5 years for criminal matters too many years. A criminal matter shouldn't take more than 3 years from the date the man is arrested to the day a determination is made in his case. Should be no more than 3, maybe at the most 3.5 years. When you go after more than that, that is unjust, is unfair. The man loses his wife and children in jail. Right? Sometimes you don't know what goes on. I know. I saw this thing deteriorating over the years. I got a stage. The prison officers and all that, they're sympathetic to the men. Right? And sometimes I go there and they say, while we're waiting for the prisoner to come up, because they bring him, the van down to bring him up. And they would sit down and talk to me and tell me what's going on. And they say, that fellow inside here for the last 4 years. I mean, what the hell? That could never be right. And if someone's a warrant or whatever it is, doesn't even come for him. So every time the warrant man comes in jail, the fella's looking out the window, the cell, he say, my name there. That's going on up there, for years. So you get this frustration setting in and entangling the entire judicial system, criminal judicial system. And how do you get out of that? And you go to the court. One of the last cases I did, Phillip, I got so angry. I tell you now, I could talk now because I don't care again. I in the sense that I will talk. I feel that by talking, I could help the situation in Trinidad. And if I could do a little bit, I would be glad. One of the last cases I did, I went to the Tunapuna court. And the man, I was representing a man for a little fraud, a small thing, fraud of about $2,000 or $3,000. The case was 3.5 years going from time to time. And every time I go there, the policeman not there, the policeman in court, the policeman in San Fernando Assizes, and the magistrate would just say, Mr. De Lima, case adjourned to June the 6th, right? This time is January, right? And the last time I went there, I said, Madam, you can't. She said, case adjourned. And she adjourned the case for a year. I said, Madam, this can't be right. She said, well, listen, you could do what you want. She said, I notice you're not looking too happy. I said, but can't be happy. She said, well, you do what you want. But I telling you, I am minus you. And I put on the case for 12 months from today, right? And I just smiled, I got up, I bowed, and I walked out of court. What do you do?
But Vernon, I also, and I want to tell you this, because I have to empathize with conscientious attorneys, with people who are before the courts with matters, and also with judges. And I want to say this, our justice system is failing and leaving judges overwhelmed. Judges are overwhelmed. They are overwhelmed. And I'm saying to you, again, if the responsibility to fix it is the parliament, why haven't we brought actions that would put the Attorney General in contempt of court if the Attorney General does not provide facilities? When they talk about not enough courts and not enough judges, but spend $80 million a year transporting prisoners, when a one-time $10 million fee would have built courts outside all the jails. When they tell me that the problem is not enough courts and not enough judges, but you're squandering and wasting money. I interviewed on this show, the Prisons Commissioner. I interviewed the Secretary of the Prison Association. They tell me, Vernon, the reality.
They didn't know. But I know. Listen, they know me, and I know them. I know those fellas. That commission, I know him when he went in there, when he first started working. Right. When I went to Trinidad, the commissioner was Monroe, right? Or Captain Monroe, and that's 50 years ago, right? A big old Portuguese fellow who had come out of the war and so on, right? And he was the commissioner. And then, going back to this, I know exactly what you're talking about, and they're right, and there's nothing that they could do. I mean, what is the? I don't know what the answer is, Phillip.
Vernon, the answer is the parliament. Vernon, the solution is the parliament. Trinidad and Tobago needs to hear and keep hearing until you put people like Vernon De Lima in the parliament. And I'm saying this to you now, that you should be in the parliament. You are somebody, or you should at least be in the cabinet with responsibility for reforming the justice system in Trinidad and Tobago. People with heart and compassion and knowledge.
Yeah,
If we continue,
I could advise, Phil, I could advise, but you see me, I told you I'm 80 years old. I would be waiting for the plane for my flight to call, right? I mean, but I'm not lying to you. There's so many things that are so fundamentally wrong. Like, for instance, the jail. I agree with you. All cases should be tried in one place, in my view, and that place should be near to Golden Grove Prison. You build a nice complex there, and you put a tunnel under the road, right, going from the east to the west, and you build your courthouses there. And that is all the courthouses, criminal jurisdiction courts. Close down the Royal Jail. That is a disgrace. Have you ever been into the Royal Jail?
no.
Have you been? Oh, you should go there one day. It comes out of Charles Dickens. I mean, if you see the Royal Jail, I mean, it's red all the time.
I will break it down. We will destroy it. That is ridiculous.
Of course, close down Carrera. That's another one. You have to close down Carrera. That's another a relic of what do you call it, boy? The old English aristocracy, right? And I mean, it is a disgrace. And you have one prison, and you have all the trials taking place within half a mile of the jail. All the criminal trials. Why you can't do that? That's one of the things. So you cut out all this thing with people driving vans. These vans, that's another thing. That's a hell of a racket. For years, that has been like that. I mean, people know that, right? Even as you say, even the prison officers, they're not content with it. Nobody is, but they had to put up with it. So you go back to the parliament.
Why could something, Vernon, could something that is patently listen,
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, because you had the UNC inside there. They did not a damn thing. They allowed this thing to continue, as though they didn't know, as though there was nothing. It didn't concern them. And then they go out, and then these other people come back in, and then so it's business as usual. So actually, you ask yourself, well, what the hell is going on? I agree with you. Every Trinidadian with a brain in his head has to sit up and say to themselves, well, boy, something big must be going on here. Because, come on, right? And then they talk about justice in time. When I see those vans passing and they mark justice in time, I laugh. I say, but it's like, I sort of thing, you're telling people justice in time. You know what I mean? And then justice in time stopped years and years and years ago. Truly. I mean, so you have that situation, so that is part of it, of the thing that has to be addressed. Is you say Parliament, I agree with you. And when you hear it doesn't look nice when you hear these things about a minister, having all these properties rental to the government, and it doesn't read nicely, I mean, and one has to wonder, well, what is going on, because the business of transportation, I didn't know it was so much money. When I heard the kind of money, millions and millions of dollars being spent to transport the prisoners to and fro the different courts and so, right? I mean, it's a hell of a thing. It's a gravy train. That's what's going on there. It's a gravy train. So that is also part of the criminal jurisdiction system that has to be addressed. And then, so you can move on now. You have the bail system. That's another one, right? The bail system, for years and years, they've been saying they're going to fix it and they're going to make bail companies and what have you. They never worried with it, right? So they think there's a big racket. The few people, I don't know if you know about that, right? But if you ever had a friend that got into trouble when the police charge him for something and you had to go and get bail, look at trouble now. That ever happened to you?
but no, but you see, even though I don't have first-hand experience with these things, Vernon, I deal with
Right.
a lot of people. So when you're asking me these questions, I want to tell you, the question you should be asking me is, am I aware? Do I know? Do I have information? Right now,
Yeah.
while you're talking to me, a doubles man, a doubles man writing me his story. I
Is
mean,
what Sandy is telling me.
but Vernon, the country, I want to take it back to this because I need you to tell Trinidad and Tobago, you have 55 years of experience as an esteemed jurist in this country, an attorney at law, a man respected by his peers. How is it possible that all of this could have continued for this long and not one man or woman of integrity stood up and say, listen, what's going on in our jails? That is a human rights atrocity. Let us fix that. Our justice system is a hotbed of corruption now. How could it cost us $30 million a month to hold a prisoner in remand yard? It would be cheaper to put them in the Marriott Hotel.
You know the expression, I'm all right, Jack? Are you familiar with that? But that's what happened, right? I'm telling you, you have, you see, you have to understand, you have to comprehend the system. And it starts from the top. I'm very sorry to say this. It starts from the top. All is not well in the state of Denmark. You familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
Which means to anybody listening to this program, which means that something ain't right. But nobody want to say what it is. You see, everybody, you hear about judge suing judge going to court, suing for promotion and all kind of thing. That never happened in my day. That just was not done. Anybody who want to do that, right? That was not done, right? Today is a different kettle of fish because times are different. All right, I understand that. But then you have to address it. How do you address it? Yeah?
What do you
The
mean?
murder.
What do you mean times are different? Because everything is interconnected and we could fix it and we could push it back. You stop the drug trade in Trinidad and Tobago, you secure the nation's borders, you remove guns off. Vernon, I mean, seriously.
We come into that. But then, I'm going step by step. That the murder rate, right, in Trinidad, is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. You can't, you have this corona thing taking place that's stopping everybody in it. I myself haven't been out of this house for the last 2 months, right? And yet these fellas going around shooting people. I mean, what the hell going on? I listen to the Guardian, to the radio every morning, and I hear the first thing I hear, right? They say, last night, and now they get to a stage in Trinidad, but they don't call it murder again, They call it killings. They figure that's often the blow a little bit now. So and so was killed last night, right? They don't say the poor son of a gun was murdered, You see, so and so was killed. A man went into a shop a rum shop and shot him 5 times, and he was killed. And that is the kind of thing that is happening, right? And it is quite unacceptable, right? You have these men with guns, right? That's another thing. I feel very strongly about that, And Gary Griffith will support me on this, I'm sure of this. Really and truly, in an ideal society, nobody in Trinidad should have any blasted gun except the police and the regiment and the Coast Guard. Nobody. That is why should anybody have a gun in Trinidad other than those who are there to enforce the law, other than the people who want to go and hunt and have a special license to go? And nowadays, with all this corona thing going on, I think you have to stop that too, because the goatee and you never know what they have in you, what they have there, right? So if you're stopping the Chinese on the one side from eating the wild meat, you perhaps all over the world you have to stop them.
But I want to tell you this, the cultural difference is this idea of eating live animals, and this is a predominantly Asian fad. I watch countless shows where you ever see what the animal itself goes through. You're eating a living frog, you're eating a living octopus. this person who got coronavirus from the bat, she was eating a living bat. And when you cook an animal, now I'm not saying I'm not listen, I limit the amount I eat to about 4 animals, and at some point I think I'm gonna become a vegan because I feel the compassion for the but so I'm not supporting all the wild meat and all but there are people who do that. But I mean if you're cooking the thing, if there is I don't want to get sidetracked on that.
No,
But you're right. Our
no,
hunting in Tobago, that's something else that we have to, we have to address.
yeah, yes, you have to grow up, man. Let me tell you something. Up here, where I live up here in Florida, right near to me, you see the amount of iguana. I mean, about 150 iguana on one side of the route, 150 on the other side of the route. And they get big, and they turn the colors from red and green to yellow and so on. And I say, but if that was in Trinidad, that couldn't happen at all. Right? You have this other
That's
thing
a
they call
roti shop right there. That's a whole roti shop right there.
you have tattoo. I see tattoo right outside my house. A tattoo party in the morning. Right? So, and then the little children across the road. They run on the tattoo and they play with tattoo and then right in Trinidad that gone. So anyhow, so for going back to this thing, the murder, it's unacceptable. Right? And we have, listen, the prisoners, we don't have the death penalty in Trinidad again. The only people who impose the death penalty in Trinidad are the criminals. They have the death penalty. And of course, they ain't got no mercy committee when it comes to them. So you can't go to the mercy committee when a criminal come in your house or put a gun in your head. I had it done to me. So I know what it feels like too. So I know both sides. Right? The man said he didn't know who I was and what happened. So he killed my wife, right? But then he hit me and my car here in one ear and all this kind of thing. So I know, right? And I am saying that when you have that kind of situation, if you want to be serious and make Trinidad and Tobago a good place to come to, because right now it's considered a dangerous place. If you go up in the book, you see Trinidad, dangerous. Don't go down there, risky. Right? You must bring back laws to help the police and the regiment and the Coast Guard organize themselves. Among the laws, the death penalty. And let me tell you something. You have to do it you have to go to referendum, right? And ask the public of Trinidad and Tobago, would you like to have the death penalty? And if they say yes, bring the damn thing back in as quickly as possible. Forget the Englishman and what's going on up there, right? Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore did exactly that, right? And he have the death penalty day up to today, right? They hung two people about 2 years ago, right? And what have you? And that is one of the things. Bring back flogging, right? The corporal punishment. I remember, Phillip, I don't even think you were wrong, right? When were you born? What year?
67.
I came back in 65, right?
I was working the numbers, yeah.
Right. When I go to jail, they impose 10 strokes on a fellow, right? And I go to prison to do the appeals. And the fellow said, he ain't worried about the 10 years. He said, my boss is 10 strokes. I can't take that, He said, I can't take that. He said, look, I'm a man, my heart ain't good, right? And so on and so on. And I have 5 children. So I said, but when you were chopping up the woman, you didn't think about the 5 children? And your heart, and then, what about that? He said, oh, boss, oh God, boss, right? Boss, don't push me down, Oh God, but I can't take the strokes, right? You know how they used to do it? They would give them 5 as they go in. And when they're coming out, a month before they come out, to remind them to behave themselves 5 more. That is how they would deal with that. And let me tell you something. I never knew of a man who get beat like that, go back to crime. And I challenge anybody who listening to this program to tell me that they know about somebody who did that. Because I knew many of them. From the time you see they get that, right, they ain't going back there at all. And that is one of the things. So you do that, and you reintroduce the death penalty, and you give the police and the regiment a break, a chance And that is how I see that part of it. I don't know what your view on that is.
No, well, listen, at the end of the day, we have a situation now where there are people in Trinidad and Tobago who do not have any regard for human life.
No, no.
And I don't think there is any way of arguing the point against the point that the death penalty makes a significant statement in a country when it is carried out. I remember when they hung Dole Chedi and Joey Ramaya and the rest of them. I remember this country.
Dole Chedi was my client. Yeah.
Right up to the end?
No, at the end I didn't do his case. I did one of the other men. I can't remember the man's name, but I did one. But I was one of the lawyers in the case. I was one of the lawyers in the case. And another man who hung there, I did his appeal, was Malik. Abdul Malik. He was notorious, world famous, right? Yeah. I come back to Dole Chedi. Dole Chedi, a week before he hung, sent to call me, right? And I went because I had done some cases for him before. And I went to the jail. You know what he told me? He told me that he agreed with the death penalty. And I was so shocked. I said, really? He said, Mr. De Lima, let me tell you something. If they don't start imposing the death penalty, it go get real bad here. Dole Chedi told me that.
Did he take secrets to the grave that we could have benefited from?
Yes, he did. He did. Because at one time, Mr. Prokop, who was his lawyer too, right? Mr. Prokop asked him, he said, Dole, why you don't, let me call the police in and give them all the information that they want to know. He said, Mr. Prokop, if I did that, I would be dead in 10 minutes. That's right. He was a strange man, eh? But that happened, and he told me that he agreed with the death sentence, the death penalty, and that it was the only thing that could help to save Trinidad from this spiraling. And let me tell you something. While I'm on that, you know when this thing started, this murder thing, and I go back to Gary Griffith again. I haven't seen Gary in years, but sometimes I read what he says, and so you see when the first of all it started with the soldiers. You see Shah and LaSalle and those fellas. When those fellas misbehaved themselves, right? They were damn lucky that they got off, you know. You have no idea how lucky they were. And they had to thank their lawyers, And in fact, one of the lawyers who they don't like to be reminded of it, he's the man who found the plea of condemnation was Jessel Hannes. He gets no praise for it. Rafiq Shah likes to stand up and say that he was the one that found it, and so that's not true. Jessel Hannes found it and came up to my home and had Alan Alexander come to my home and showed him, look, I found this. And that's what saved all of them. But those fellows, right, misbehaved themselves, and they were damn lucky to get off. And I remember Achampong, who was one of the judges from Ghana, one of those places. We went down to Shagaramas to see the scene of the crime. And so they had the soldiers there, and the police and the regiment and what have you. And all the judges were there. And so Saturday morning, and Achampong comes across to me and he says, Mr. De Lima. He says, you are a very strange man. Everything for you is a joke. Right. So I looked at him and I said, but Colonel, it is a joke, isn't it? He says, you are right. In my country, we would have shot all of them. I never forgot that, right? And that same man, 2 years later, I saw him on television. One night, Jennifer and myself were looking at television, and we saw him being carted away in a Land Rover, tied up like that, and he was waving to the public, they were going to hang him No, no, shoot him. You're going to shoot him. Yeah. But he went back. He went back to Ghana to do a coup, right? And then he himself. And so when I saw him going in the valley, I said to myself, but you told me that, you told me that if you do something, yes, he went on to say, in my country, if you make a coup and you do not succeed, then you are shot.
You read Gary Griffith on Sunday, the 26th of April, in his personal capacity, not as Commissioner of Police. If you would humor me, I will read it for you. What Gary said about no one in uniform must ever even dream of being a mutineer, as what took place in 1970 must never happen again. The 1970 Army mutiny will remain one of the biggest scars in our nation's history. Yet for some reason, every time this is discussed, even as recent as the articles published in daily newspapers on April 26, 2020, to commemorate the 50th anniversary of such an unfortunate event, the perpetrators are portrayed as being dreamers, being too bright for their own, standing up in defense of the oppressed and doing what was best for the country at the time, which is totally wrong, misleading, and if not addressed, has the propensity to reoccur. As the youngest officer of the Defense Force exactly 20 years after that fiasco during the attempted coup and now being the Commissioner of Police, I feel compelled to address this misnomer and clearly state that nothing is further from the truth, and such misconceptions must be totally eliminated from the minds of our citizens, because such views may cause others to think that way, inclusive of those who presently wear uniforms. My statements are particularly poignant based upon the attempted coup, where the 100+ terrorists in 1990 did not have a snowball chance in hell to succeed. However, a brief moment of concern was the following morning when the leader of the insurgents boasted that he had the support of many from the protective service, and the last thing you need in armed combat is to be looking behind your back owing to the fear of a Trojan horse in your own camp.
Captain Griffith is right.
Such actions must therefore be condemned and rejected at every level in our nation, so that such actions as seen in 1970 must be deemed as not persons being dreamers, heroes, and acting based on a higher good, but should be labeled as what they ought to have been deemed when they committed such actions, as being enemies of the state, mutineers, and a disgrace to any service where they wore such uniforms. Gary,
that's correct.
It goes on, but I think that made the point. Gary said he was trained at Sandhurst, and he was trained with one thing: not to defy orders.
Yeah, he's right. He's dead right. And no, why I mentioned that case is because I was in that case. I was for the two men that I appeared for. They were the brave ones, Lyle Young and Norrie, right? And the other fellows were cowards, right? The ones on top. Right, they were not like Lyle Young and Norrie, right? Ask any of the soldiers and they'll tell you. And I appeared for them at the first trial in front of Danjuma. But Gary Griffith is correct, because it is from there that the thing began, right? People in Trinidad, up to that time, if you check it back, you'll see that their murders were about maybe 2 a month, maybe if that many. But from the time that happened, right? It came concomitant with Black Power movement, if you remember. But you won't remember because you were not there, right?
But I remember from the...
All right, okay. It was together with them, right? And those are, I know a lot about them too, because I was the first lawyer to go to Nelson Island, right? For the detainee called Otto Patrick. But anyhow, coming back to this thing, right? It is there it started. So when Mr. Abu Bakr took up his guns in 1990 and did what he did, in fact, right outside the court, and in the highest court of the land, the parliament, right? That was atrocious, and it is from there. If you check it, Phillip, you will see it is from there. Up the road.
But Vernon, who?
Gary Griffith knows something. I will tell you now. There was I wouldn't call his name, but there was a senior a senior officer of the regiment who, left to him, would have executed all of them. And the Prime Minister told him, don't do that. For God's sake, don't do that. Right? Because he said, yeah. He said, yes. He said, you cannot allow that to happen. Oh, then you know. Raoul
Panter's book was first hand, and he said that they were afraid of that man more than anything else because they didn't think that they were making it out alive.
Correct, because he was not a bullshitter. That's the thing. You see, the rest of the Sal and all that, I talk because I can't say him, right? I know what this for the time too, right? And Griffith is quite right when he said, because he is now there now having to face the music for what those fellas did. And all of us in Trinidad and Tobago are just like Gary Griffith. We got to face that music, right? You tell me it is forgivable for a man to walk into your house at 5 o'clock in the morning and with a gun and shoot you and hit you in your head and kill your family. That could never be right, man. And then walk away and get 5 years or 10 years in the jail and then looking for mercy committee to let him out. Right? Mercy committee. Come on, man. In those days,
Gary needs a proper prime minister, a proper cabinet, a proper parliament. Gary can't do it alone. Gary is going to get frustrated at some point with this system that does not work.
I could see that. Because you see that there are a lot of fellas, let me tell you something. There are a lot of fellas who don't want to see him succeed. They don't want to see him succeed. Listen, Phillip, you're a very bright fellow, you know. I must say that with you. I listen to you a lot, and you have your head well on your shoulders. But you have to remember in Trinidad, they have a lot of bad people. And don't let people fool you with that, you know, right? They have the majority of people in Trinidad are good. I tell you, they're good and lovely. Trinidad, you can't find nicer people in your life. But Christ, they have some bad ones. And when they're bad, they're bad. Like, don't doubt me, they're real bad. They just get rich in the condemned cell because of money and because of position and so, but they're worse than the people in the condemned cell. Because over the years, people don't like to say this, but over the years, a lot of these things that you see going on in Trinidad and Tobago, going on with the blessing, support, and authority of these people, those people. And those are the same people that you will see at a wedding or in country club dancing up and so on and so on and so on. And you believe me, that like normal. Normal. See, so and once you understand that, so let's move on a little bit, right? Another thing that mash up the judicial system is the way that even a lot of people are not going to like what I'm going to say now. The appointment of Silk. You see, Silk, right? Silk is the award of senior counsel, the status of senior counsel, to persons who have excelled at the bar, right? Whether it's the criminal bar or the civil bar, what have you. Over the years, once you have excelled and so on, you are entitled to Silk. That's how it started off. That's how it is in England, not in Trinidad. Why? Because the politicians held on to it, right? Starting from Dr. Williams, time, right? You couldn't become Silk unless you were pleasing to the politician, right? It moved from him to Manning and all these fellows and so on, and to the other one, Bissessar and all these people. And so as a result, it stultified the bar. Right? You'd find that certain people who were not even really entitled to this promotion, to this elevation, found themselves being given Silk. And of course, once they get the Silk, to hell with their brothering and so on. They had no time for them at all. I mean, I'm all right, Jack. I reach, right, to ask with you, right? And over the years, I saw very, very seasoned, lovely, right, intelligent, good men, right, lose their morale because they realize that there's no way they could get silk, right? And I remember in the olden days, you had to be invited for silk. So a senior counsel would come to you and say, Phillip, I've been noticing you and your performance at the bar. Would it be all right if I make an application for you to be elevated? And so on. That's how it was. And you would say, oh, I'm so honored, and so on and so on. And invariably, with the recommendation of such senior counsel, such eminent counsel, the award would be given. It's started to change about 30 years ago, right? Where a lot of these fellas, they got in with the different parties, and then they started to become silk and this kind of thing. And I saw over the years, twice, Bruce Prokop, who was my senior in Chambers, applied for me. And he said to me, Vernon, I've applied for you. I said, but why you do that? The first time he did it, they refused me, right? The second time he did it, I told him, I'm surprised he did that, Bruce. He said, no, you're deserving of it, man. You're one of the leaders of the criminal bar and so on. I didn't get it again, right? And Jennifer told me, she said, if you apply for silk again, she said, I'm married to you 27 years and I will leave you. If you make that mistake and apply, she told me that, right? And I said, okay, don't worry. I will do that. I will never do that again. And it is years later, when I got into politics, I never even thought of that, right? It is Winston Dukaran who applied for me, right? I'm telling you, right? And I was awarded, sir. My dear good fellow, 6 months didn't pass. Listen to this, eh? The Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago meets me at a party down at some place in San Fernando, and says to me, but you are a hell of a man. So I said, me? Why? She said, I work so hard to give you silk and you never pick up the telephone to ring me and thank me. I said, well, look at my crosses. And I just turned and walk away. That's the last time I ever seen anyone. Right? But that happened with me. So it shows you where where these people brought down the profession, right? And they make it like come like nothing. Like you go in the market and buy some arrows and the same thing, like you buy silk, right? Right? Serious men. I could call some of them Joe Panto, right? Naki King, right? Sharma. All these fellas these fellas were deserving of silk. Never even considered, right, over the years, right? But they give all their friends. You hear a fellow come off the road there, you don't know who the ass he is, right? But he working for the TNM. Next thing is you see the man got big office, man. You have 5 people with him, but he is silk. Right? That's what they did to the profession. So that's all part of the judicial system too, right? That is all part of it. The whole thing became jaded. Are you with me?
I have to ask you one question.
Sure. Ask many of you.
Are there still enough good people in the profession to redevelop the profession and purge the politics that has corrupted it? Are there enough?
Yeah, plenty. There are plenty. I know them. Some of the young ones, I don't know if I haven't been there in 3-4 years, but the fellas who are there 10, 15 years, I know them. And some of them are very good. They're very, very good lawyers and very good people, you know. But as I tell you, that thing, Phillip, over the years, that thing, I've written a book. I haven't published it as yet, but it's coming out soon, right?
My next question is, are you writing a book? Because everybody who's going to watch this show going to say, my God, this man stories. I want to hear all his stories. So
I'll finish it.
We're going to do more of this show, but continue. Talk about your book.
I finished the book, but I'm waiting for this virus thing. I hope it will come to an end. But sometimes I have some doubts here. I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying, well, you know, I mean, I don't know. So anyhow, because you know the expression "king savvy." Who knows, right? Who knows what is going to happen? Who knows what?
I want my autograph copy.
Yes,
I book
yes.
in my autograph. I don't mind paying for it, but I want
No,
the
no, you don't have to
autograph
pay for
copy.
it. You don't have to pay for
That's
it. This book, I ain't writing this book for money, you know. I ain't writing this book for money. Look, it's like today I was looking for something, boy. That's very interesting. The Commission of Inquiry. Come into that just now, eh? Commission of Inquiry into La Tinta. Man, you go up in the net and look for it. Try and get it. You can't get it. Not get it, right? You know the expression persona non inventus? A person who cannot be found, well, that's res non inventus. A thing that cannot be found at all, right? But let us move on.
that is the second commission of inquiry whose results cannot be found because people are writing me and asking me for the Scott drug report.
I have that. And I have the other one too. You can't get it. I have it because I don't tell you how. I have
I'm
a
gonna
copy.
send somebody to your house to photocopy both for me. That's all I'm telling you.
Wait. But it was who don't. Let me see. Yeah, so we moving on. So that the Commission of Inquiries.
But Vernon, you brought up commissions of inquiry. And people are so jaded. Look, we're talking about Latenta, we're talking about the inquiry into the construction sector, the Commission of Inquiry into 1990, the Commission of Inquiry into CLICO and HCU. It looks like all of these things are just means for lawyers, what Trinidadians say, to eat a food. Because
No.
these inquiries come to a result, they come to a conclusion. Why isn't the DPP and law enforcement forced to act on those recommendations and conclusions?
I'm glad you reached there because that's what I'm coming to, right? I heard you speak, and you speak about the drug trade and having a commission of inquiry into the drug trade. But I want to tell you something. They've had, to my mind, three already inquiries into the drug trade. Three, no one, right? The first one was the Scott drug report, which was in 1987. The drug, I have that here too, right? I have it here with me, right? The second one was the Latenta Commission of Inquiry, 1989, right? That is also, it's also a commission of inquiry into drugs, because I will tell you why as you go along, right? And then there was a third something that is called let me get my glasses here. It is called, it's a paper done by Dawn Townsend. You ever heard that name?
No, who's this?
Dorn Townsend, Towsend. And the name of the paper is No Other Life, Gangs, Guns, and Governance in Trinidad and Tobago. This is a man who came from Switzerland, from Geneva. And he came down to Trinidad in 1991. Came down to Trinidad, 2009, 2009. Came down to Trinidad and interviewed a number of people, including the Archbishop of Port of Spain and the present Archbishop, and a number of people. Gary wasn't one of them. Gary Griffith was not one of them. But he wrote a hell of a paper on the whole drug system and so. Now, but let's talk about La Tinta, because Scott drug report was out, and as a result of which the commissioner. Go on.
If I can just ask, you familiar with Darius Figueroa and his book Cocaine and Heroin Trafficking in the Caribbean?
I have two copies. Yeah.
I just want to know why you did that in your lineup.
No, I Because I have the book in front of that, but no, but I know of the book, right? And I met him. He was a lecturer at UWI, so I know the man,
Yeah.
right? When I was doing a case, actually, a very interesting case, Rick Gomes. You ever hear about that man? You ever heard about that
Yes.
case? Rick Gomes, right? I did that case, right? And I used that book. I used that book to support my contention. The judge didn't take me on. Just Dick Rick Gomes went to jail for 3 years, right? He was a notorious coke man. But anyhow, La Tinta arose when a drug bust went awry, right? Down and a number of police officers were charged eventually after they had a commission of inquiry, because a policeman called Police Constable Phillip Salvery died, right? You see, notice I wouldn't say killed. I don't like to use that word kill, right? Because I don't know whether he was murdered. Nobody seems to know. Or whether he just drowned. But it's very, very fishy. And a number of these officer people there was this commission of inquiry, and the 3 men who sat were Mr. Frank Solomon, senior counsel, who is now passed. Mr. Larry Goldstraw, who was then ex-commander Goldstraw of the regiment, who is now passed as well, and Dr. Peter Lewis. He was the 3rd one, right? And they sat for many, many days in what year? Anyhow, so but I want to read for you. The Commission of Inquiry gave a decision, right? And it is this decision. Look at it here. This is how I don't know if you can see it. Look.
Yes, yeah. Seen it. Wow.
See? Right? Good. But I want to read something for you, because it's good that the public get to know this, because they don't know this, right? Here's what it said. There was no member of the squad, the police squad, who were down there at Tinta. There was no member of the squad who did not lie to the commission. And there was none who had the least compunction about doing so. Their attitudes range from immature and even puerile defiance, as in the case of so-and-so, to the pious disingenuousness of so-and-so, to the outrageous mendacity of so-and-so. They all, in their separate ways, lied to us. The style and quality of their dishonesties would vary, not unnaturally perhaps, from personality to personality, as each presented ritually his prepared litany. Some may have seemed more offensive than others, perhaps because they gave the impression of enjoying themselves too much. But in the final analysis, they impressed us as being a thoroughly dishonest, policemen, you're talking about it, a thoroughly dishonest lot, who down to a man had no conception that to lie to a public inquiry was in any way unprofessional or morally reprehensible. They gave the impression, rather, that they felt it was their duty to do so, and that to support the common invention was an honorable thing to do, rather than the opposite. It was not that they lacked morality, it was that their morality was corrupt. They had ceased to be accountable to the law or to their profession, then their community or their country. They were accountable only to one another. They presented to us a cynical corps of outlaws, dangerously vested with the special powers of policemen. Moreover, they enjoyed the privileges attendant upon being the elite of the police service, while being in reality perfidious trustees of the public safety. Inducement and threat that was psychologically or legally available to us to persuade them. We tried every inducement and threat that was psychologically or legally available to us to persuade them individually to break rank and to revert to honesty. But none, we regret to say, was even tempted. those conclusions, Philip, right, and the recommendations of that commission of inquiry
What were
were
the
probably
recommendations?
they were sent to the DPP, all of them,
Right.
and then
Right.
yes, and then after about a year, government changed. Government changed, right? In came a new government. Yep.
I want to ask, right? I want to ask this question. A commission of inquiry. The commission of inquiry in Las Alturas, Noel Garcia, he just refused. He take the fine, pay the fine, but he not come in. Why is a commission of inquiry? We've seen commissions of inquiry fail to act on the recommendations of the commission. You could send for the witness.
They could send for the witness, but they can't. If he say he ain't coming, they can't do him anything.
Exactly.
They could send him yeah.
No, but there's a fine.
Yeah, there are no teeth, right?
But that's the point.
Yes.
And okay, so why is there not a contempt of court statute built in to the commission of inquiry that you can be held?
In my respectful answer to that, the only thing I could put it down to is that in those days, when they had a commission of inquiry, they had a certain amount of respect for the law by the public and so on. But those days have gone. You're quite right.
But Vernon, we watched the Scott drug report. I don't even understand what happened to the drug report. Who decided that we are not going to act on this? And how do we live in a country where Justice Scott's due and proper inquiry could be just discarded and thrown away?
That is, you're quite right. You're very right. But it happened. It happened, and I know that Justice Scott. I knew him very well, and he was very, very upset about that. He was extremely upset. As a matter of fact, he told me once, he said, listen, if you ever call me to do anything again, I will never do it. I said, I'll never do it for any government. Because he felt that he demeaned. And that's exactly what happened here with La Tinta. Because let me tell you what happened. Do you know these policemen were reinstated, partner? And not only that, some of them promoted. Right? And one day, about 2 years later, I appeared for the family of Phillip Sabri. I was the lawyer for Phillip Sabri, right? And for his family, right? And I went into the I had occasion, a client of mine was arrested or something, and he was in one of the police stations in the country. I did, and the family called me and they said, Mr. De Lima, the boy in that station, they arrested him for driving a motor car without license. And I went to see the boy, and who should I bounce up with? One of these fellas, right? And he was in charge of the station. And he said to me, Mr. De Lima. And he's talking loud for everybody to hear in the station. Look at Mr. De Lima, right? He is the man who had me before the commission of inquiry. So what can I do for you? That was the attitude, partner. Right? That is where we are gone. So I just very, very quietly said, thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow. And I left.
Before you go further, right? I want to tell Trinidad and Tobago, because all of my interests in politics, the last straw, because in school I was in the ONR, I was in the heart of the NAR as a young man. The Congress of the People was the last best hope for the country. And when the Congress of the People joined with the United National Congress, I pretty much stepped away. I was the loudest voice against the People Partnership from the day they won the election. I was part of the Congress of the People, and I told Trinidad and Tobago I voted for Keith Rowley in 2007. I was not going to be a part of the farce. And there was a morning I was watching Fazir Mohammed on TV6, and Vernon De Lima was on the show. And Vernon De Lima was the first person with a senior post. I think, were you the chairman of the Congress of the People at the time?
Yes. I'll tell you about that. Yeah, I'll come back as you raise that.
But I want to say to you,
yeah.
You looked into the camera And you said, and this was either 2011 or 2012, so it was
That's your
still
mother.
early in the game. And you
Yeah, go on.
said, Madam Prime Minister, we didn't sign up for that.
That's right. That's
Vernon,
right.
that evening, I went flagship house and joined back the Congress of the People.
Is that right? Is that right?
It
Let
is
me tell you
because
what.
of you. It is because of you, that statement that morning, that I became politically active. All of this is
Yeah.
from that point, because I'm telling you, I was done. I thought it was over. I'm going to ask a question now after telling you all of that.
Yeah.
Do you think that I am wasting, that all of us who are trying are wasting our time and our lives? Do you think that this country is so far gone, that it's so broken, so corrupt, that we are wasting time, that it can't fix? Do you? If you tell me it can't fix, I stop.
No,
You know this thing.
it could
But
fix.
then
It
I
could
know
fix.
you know, you look people in the eye that you know in high positions in this country, and you know the level of criminality they engaged in. I know
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So if
You're right.
you tell me
It could fix,
that
but it
it
ain't gonna be nice. It ain't gonna be nice. It ain't gonna be a pat cake kind of thing. Eh? Let me explain that to you, right? And you know, that's the thing. Otherwise, if I didn't think so, I wouldn't do the show,
good.
right? Because let me tell you something. I remember, you could call this show "No Holds Barred," eh? Because I afraid nobody. When I was in charge of Flagship House, and this is one of the reasons that I got out of politics. Eh? Politics is a nasty thing, Phillip. Trinidad made it that way. I feel so. Eh? But let me tell you, I thought politics was a noble thing because Mr. Dukaran to me was always a noble man, and he still is a noble man. But boy, I run across some people in politics that all the criminals that I ever represent is like acolytes to them. I ain't lying to you, right? When I remember, I had a job of as PRO kind of thing, and I had an office. I was in charge of Flagship House, which was COP head office in Tragri Road. And my job, when they got into power, because Dukaran wanted me to be a minister, he wanted me to be what is it? That one that Jack Warner took. What was he? Minister of National Security. And they put my name forward, and the other people put Warner's forward, and Warner won. Did you know that? You know that, right? And I was glad. I ain't lying to you because I really didn't want to be in that. I was so happy that we had moved the PNM and that the COP would have a chance to make the country a better country for all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That's why I was in politics. My dear good fellow, I in charge of down there. My job was to meet people who had grievances. And I had two secretaries, right? The Hammersmith girl, Frances, poor child, she died now.
Yes.
And another girl, right? And they were my secretaries. And
Vernon Francis Smith was a founding member of the Progressive Empowerment Party. You know.
Really?
She sit in Stanmore Avenue and give information to all the newcomers. She used to bring files and boxes of stuff that she had saved from COP. I mean, we mourned her when she passed, you know. She was, yeah, she was. Anyway,
she
continue.
fought her cancer for years. Anyway, and so my job was to meet people who had grievances and see if I could help them. And I thought it was a noble job, right? I'm not lying to you, it was a noble job. And I would go in there 3 afternoons a week, like from 12 o'clock till 5, and talk to people. I had a telephone, and I had everybody's number from the Prime Minister down, so I could reach anybody, right? A fella come in there one afternoon, and he said, Mr. De Lima, a very nice man. I don't know him, man. He came in, he brought his papers with his docket. He said, I'm a contractor. And I'm a little contractor. I have only 8 men working for me. But the government, they owe me, we are just beating the PNM, just beating the about 3 months in. He said, the government owe me what $850,000 or something, $850,000, and I can't get my money. And even before the piano went out, I sent them a bill. They wouldn't pay me and what have you. So I said, no, you reach the right man. No, I'm the man. So I got on the phone and I called Monilal, that same man you had on the other night, right? And I called him and I said, hello, Minister. He said, hey, De Lima, how are you going? I said, not too bad. I said, look, I have a fellow here. He's being owed $850,000 and he has a small little company. He will go out of business if you don't pay him. He said, De Lima, that man is a PNM. So I said, yes. He told me he was a PNM. He said, look here, man, to hell with him. He said, no. We are in power now, man. To hell with them. Right? We are in power. Let him wait. As a matter of fact, I don't want to hear about that man again. And he put on the phone at me. Right? And I said to Francis, I said, get him again. And when she rang, he wouldn't answer the phone. And I went to Winston Dukaran and I said, Mr. Dukaran, so happened. He said, well, what can we do? I said, no. The man is a Trinidadian. I don't give a damn whether he belongs to the Shango party or say he's a Trinidadian first and foremost. And Winston agreed with me. I said, well, no, I can't, this can't go on, These people, they're not interested in any coalition and so on, And that's where the thing began, That's where my departure from that organization started. Because I realized that they were not in power to help anybody. They were in power to help themselves, my dear good fellow. And that was my experience with that. So very shortly after that, I made Mr. Dukaran call a meeting. I said, no, why? I said, get out of this partnership thing, man. Let him go ahead. I said, if we do that, I assure you that the next election, we will be in power. We will be the ones going in. We said, well, I will call a meeting. And he called a meeting, Phillip. When he called a meeting, only 3 of the ministers came. The fellow Anil Roberts, who had defected by that time, right? He's another thing. I would really like to mention that fellow's name, right? But he had gone, and the man from Arima, he didn't come either. The man who drives the maxi taxi, but the other 3 came, right? And then they put it to the vote. They had about 40 people. They put it to the vote, and I lost. I got about 8 people to vote for me, who voted for me. Because I said, no, we must leave this partnership. This partnership is no good. And of course, some of the fellas sitting down in the room, some of them had little jobs, and it was just a big thing for them. And I got up and I walked out, and that's how I left the COP. That's how. But Jennifer had left before. She started them.
We started with all the best of integrity and morality and new politics, and what happened along the way? I would go. When you did your thing on President Show, I would start back. I would go to that Sunday morning thing that they would have up in Kearney and listen. Well, it's time for the general floor to talk, and people talking about CPEP contracts and URP contracts and gangs, and I said to myself, but you all didn't want to change Trinidad from what Manning was doing. You all wanted Manning's toys. You all wanted to be Manning.
That's correct. You're right. I saw that. And then I realized, and then everything was a barter. That's why when the time came, and Dukaran put me up with it. Go back to the silk thing, right? It is she that told me that up at that same Rienzi complex. She's the one. She met me and then tell me about you went to ring up and thank me. But madam, excuse me a minute. I 35 years in the bar. In those days, 35 years in the bar, right? I turn and walk out. Right? But she gave herself silk at the time, right? And the other, the Attorney General for
and her psychic, and you see, Vernon, I want to tell you, there are people who, I mean, as elections come in closer, They have people who bend in my ear on a daily basis and telling me, boy, Philip, the only way to win is to join, and the only way to get into office, and we will get into office and we'll fix it. I keep telling people, we've been down this road before.
That's
we
correct.
know how this ends. We know how this ends.
We know it well. Oh yes, I remember it well. You know that song? Oh yes, I remember it well.
We know where this leads. This doesn't lead to anything good. You cannot have politics of convenience continuing. When you have people, the other day I had an interview with Bastio Pandey. I asked him some of the questions that I asked you tonight. They just so forthcoming on. Bastio Pandey could not answer. He did not know.
Let me give you another one, right? When things were getting hot inside of you and they realized that I was giving them a little jab from time to time, Jack Warner stands up in the parliament and said, I met with two other men who I don't even know their names, of some fellow called Bell and somebody else. Do you know?
I remember that. I remember that.
And a conspiracy to murder the Prime Minister. I say, but what trouble is this? So So I went to Bruce and I said, broke up. And Bruce said, no. We'll write the speaker. So we write the speaker. And we asked the speaker to have Mr. Warner apologize to Mr. De Lima. The speaker said, no, he ain't doing that. Not at all. And to be fair, Marlene McDonald Davis, whatever her name, Marlene McDonald, and I have never met her in my life. She got up in the house and said, you can't talk like that about Mr. De Lima.
And Vernon, but again, the parliamentary privilege that allowed them to defame you and it allowed them to defame me and others. The parliamentary privilege was created. There was no broadcast so that any statement like that would have been limited to who was in the house. Now when a parliamentarian stand up and castigate and throw your name in the mud.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you're quite right. You're very right. And you see,
and what they do is they play this game. So they go in the parliament and they use fellas like this actually used to be Keith Rowley's job. This was this is what Patrick Manning brought Keith Rowley into the parliament for. What Fitzgerald Hines tries to do now. When Keith Rowley was the Rottweiler, you remember that man in his day?
Yeah, I remember him well. Yes, I remember him
well. And our politics and the United National Congress that wants to go back into office have never changed anything of any significance that is wrong in this country, have not repaired anything that is of any significance in this country, and putting them back into office now without a single undertaking. It's not even on their list, it's not on their radar. The United National Congress, their whole intention is to get all of the floating talkers, all of them outside there, to get them, just keep hitting the PNM. Just keep hitting the PNM because we have this political game we play where you come low enough, I go take it. And I come low enough, you go take it. And that change does nothing for nobody. The things that you and I have spoken about tonight, I watch a man write on the thread, the message thread for this video, Commission of Inquiry is useless. I keep telling people, a Commission of Inquiry is a tool. When it does its job, it comes to an end, it makes recommendations, it is for law enforcement, the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the courts to deal with them. A Commission of Inquiry will charge.
But no. Let's go back to the Commission of Inquiry into that into. What is so important about this, Phillip, which none of us have highlighted, is the fact that the public has never seen it. I understand. I am verily told that there are only 3 copies in the world, and I have one. Right?
And it's going to be photocopied by my people. My people are coming by you to photocopy. Yeah, just like that.
Yeah, but it's a hell of a thing because the public don't know. You see, a Commission of Inquiry serves another purpose, like the Scott Commission of Inquiry. You could talk about it because you know it. Have you seen it? Have you ever seen it?
I actually had a copy, and I don't know what happened to my copy, but I've read it, but you can get it online. You know,
it's available. But try and get it Latin. You can't get it. You cannot get it. Right? You'll see it come up. You see the folder. a lovely fool on Amazon and they try and get it. It is impossible to get it, right? And you see, the public never know. What I read to you is the first time Trinidad hearing that.
I know that.
Right? I'm telling you.
I know that, and I'm saying to you now, we have to continue this. There has to be more to this. We have to have more of these conversations. But Vernon De Lima, I have to put you on the spot. Trinidad is turning to you, and people like you. And I know you tell me that you're going to be 80 and you're retiring. You're waiting. What you tell me? You're in the
waiting for the flight.
You not know the Barcelona. I'm telling you, only the good guy. You here till Christ. Vernon,
I learned to cook. You know, I learned to cook. If I saw how good I could cook, because before she died, she taught me to cook a few things. I could cook rice, and I could cook curry. Could you imagine that? I cooked a curry, curry shrimp. It was so nice.
You lost an angel.
I complimented myself.
You lost an angel. She was sweet, boy. You lost an angel.
I dream of all the time, so that's good.
She feels so much better. It's a criminal country we lived in. That could be how she ended. You said it just now and I let it pass, but I want to tell you something. My heart broke for you when you gave me that story on the phone. I telling you, and it's unfair. Not for somebody like her.
Anyway. And then not only that, when the man helped me in the office, and he had a gun to me, and then he had my gun to the back of me, and then he said to me, I said, what about my wife? Oh, she said, she dead long ago. Don't worry about her, she's dead. Think about yourself. Right? I said, she's dead? He said, yes, she's dead. Kill her. Yeah, I can never forget that, Phillip, never as long as I live, right? That's terror. That's what we call terror. And anyway.
You understand how you go through that and you still be normal.
Did you ever see a picture of her when there was a photograph in the front of the Guardian, front page of Sunday Guardian?
You had sent it to me. You had sent me pictures of what happened to her.
Yeah, her head was swollen up. It's terrible.
But we stick up in there because we stick up in on that. But I want to say to you because everybody gonna hold me to task if I don't say this. You said earlier that you would advise. Trinidad needs you.
I don't want anything. I don't want any position. I don't want any money. I'm truly, Phillip, I want nothing. You know what? I want to give. Right? Honestly, if I could do anything to give, I don't want any reward. Right? I will give. And I'm serious. I will give. You know what? Why do I doing it for? For the children. And and that's why I particularly like this one thing. When everybody asks me what a terrible virus this is, I say, no, the virus is so bad. Virus like the children. Right? The virus interfering with children. You don't find that strange, right? And I understand that very well, right? I think that our age and our era needs a real scourge. I'm not lying to you, because so many things we spoke about tonight, this afternoon, is just show you, right, where we have gone to. It is really,
but we could fix it. There's a saying that all that stands between us and the darkness is a few good men. You and others like you who have the knowledge and the ability and the heart, the strength, the courage to still be. Vernon, you shouldn't even be taking me on. You shouldn't even be taking on the show. You say in the departure lounge, you're living well, you're carrying your shrimp where you are, you're safe and you're happy. You shouldn't be caring.
You're a very good chicken soup. I am the best chicken soup maker. I can't make a chicken soup. Bullshit. It's true.
Vernon De Lima, I want to tell you, you literally, you are somebody that I have the greatest respect for. I said at the beginning, you're a giant among men. That is how I consider you. I want to tell you that we have to continue this, not for me, but for all the others, because I'm hearing your stories, but a lot of people want to hear more. So Satish going to talk to you and work on a time if it's convenient to you, because I know you have a lot of time on your hands. You finished writing the book, so maybe you could talk to us and read some chapters to us. We will do this again next week. I want to tell you thanks a lot for joining us on the show. I want to give you the opportunity to closing comments, and I want to tell you take as much time as you need. Give us your closing comments.
I will take a lot of it. We are all in this thing together. This virus thing. We all in it, all of us. One thing I've already said. One of the things that it has done, which pleased me, but the other thing that it has done, it has stripped everybody of any sort of pride. Everybody come to the same, right? We are all the same. No, your money is nothing. Money means nothing nowadays. The motor car you drive, the plane you're flying in, it don't mean a damn thing, right? And I would like to also to salute all the frontline people and Trinidad and Tobago, because like the doctors and the nurses, the police people, Gary Griffith and his people, right? The prison officers who they risk their lives, literally risk their lives, right? The living water people, I read all about them, right? All these people, the TN people, the WASA people, you don't see those people, but without them, the country can't work. Country can't work. Oh. And they could come out at this time, so, and they have to come out because they are essential services, and so, life will never be the same. But then, do you ever want it to be the same? I don't want it to be the same. I hope that when this thing finishes, that we have a better life, not to go back to what we had before the virus came, And I also remembered, yesterday I went to mass on the television, on the computer, because the mass comes now like that. And in the psalm they say, "The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want." And that thing struck me. Lord, when that thing comes, it comes at this time, right? Well, look at when the virus came. The virus came at Easter time. Easter time is really the time for Christianity. That's when the virus decided to come in to move in, right? And it has done so. But now, I remember, and I remember all the lovely people of Trinidad and Tobago, and I hope that they will be safe and remember the 4 rules. Stay home, wear your mask, right? Your social distancing, wear your mask, and wash your hands. It's four things that you have to remember. You have to remember. You have to do it. No matter who not doing it, you do it. And we're gonna come out of it. We'll come out of it. And I wish everybody all the very best. I don't know if and when I'll come to Trinidad this year, because I was booked to come to Trinidad, and then the airline rang me about 3 weeks ago. I was booked 4 weeks ago, and they rang and said, "Hey, I'm going to Trinidad. Stop going there," right? And then so I can't go there. And I certainly, not at my age, coming down to go into any quarantine. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. So I only hope that I'll be able to come.
Marriott or something. Unless they put you up in a 5-star resort.
Nah, I don't go to no hotel either. Your hotel, to me, the hotel is just as bad. But I hope that I wish everybody all the very best, and I hope to see them before the end of the year. And God bless everybody in Trinidad. And thank you for having me. And God bless you too. Okay.
Yeah, Vernon. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that. And Trinidad and Tobago, I keep telling you, we have a lot of good people, bright people, people with the ability to fix it, courageous people, people with knowledge and experience. I keep telling you, turn to country first. For you to get to country first, you have to leave the cults behind. If you still, after hearing everything, seeing everything, experiencing everything that you've seen, heard, known, experienced the past 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, for the past hour, if you've seen the past 2 months in Trinidad and Tobago, the whole world, but Trinidad and Tobago, if you've seen how we continuously fail the people, but we reward the financiers and the 1% and the contract mafia. If you hear people like Vernon De Lima with 55 years experience as a jurist, a man of impeccable ability, tell you that the thing is rotten and corrupt to the core, that it has to be fixed, and we have to turn to the parliament. But this bunch in the parliament, that rotten and corrupt to the core too. How are we going forward? How could 1.4 million of us continue to accept corruption rotten to the core, that we live in a rat hole, that the people who are responsible for driving the car, for fixing the ship of state, are themselves corrupt and rotten to the core? How do we continue to think that one from column A and one from column B is a way forward? The only way to fix Trinidad and Tobago is for all of us to stand together as one people under one flag. The only way to fix Trinidad and Tobago is for all of us to stand together as one people under one flag. Red, white, black, green, and every shade in between, all of us stand together as one people under one flag. No party card, no party color, no cult, no juice. We're standing together for country. One people under one flag. We mobilizing 1.4 million of us. It is time. It is way past time. 58 years of this madness is way too much. When you look and you see and you listen and you pay attention, where we going, it's not a good place, you know. Trinidad is not heading somewhere good, you know. If you love your children, if you love your parents, if you love your siblings, if you love your friends, if you love yourself, if you love your country, and you have no intention of leaving here, get together on the side of the patriots and the civic-minded who you are getting to know on this show every day. Get on the side of that conversation, because Trinidad and Tobago is dying. For the rest of this week, we have some strong guests. For the rest of the month, every time the phone rings and it's Satish Ramsaran, head of Pep Media, is some other guest that we know that the information they're going to bring for you is information that you need in the redevelopment and the reconstruction of Trinidad and Tobago. Tomorrow we have Gavin Hira, former head of the National Operations Center, one of the best at what he does, Commander Gavin Hira. On Wednesday, we have Kriyan Singh, former independent senator, a very outspoken guy. He's a vet. He's an animal rights activist. You want to hear from him. On Thursday, we have a former PNM member of parliament / minister. Friday, we bring back Daniel Suku to talk more about food production, agriculture, and how we feeding this nation, how we getting to food independence. And that's this week. Next week, we already have former MPs and former ministers and judges. We're trying to bring other leaders of other countries to talk to Trinidad and Tobago. You need to hear, we need to know, we need to make decisions based on information and fact. It's time to stop the old talk and the drama and to get ourselves to a place where we could make all of the platitudes of our national anthem a reality. Here, every creed and race finds an equal place. People dwell on the terms here, every creed and race. The only word in that whole sentence that I pay attention to is equal. We've never had an equal place. Until tomorrow, stay safe, Trinidad and Tobago.